Welcome here to the Ride Along channel in Vassiliki, where, in usual Vas style, we expected some wind and it's a little bit later. We're still optimistic it's going to come through. But before it does, and before I go on the water to do a bit of a session with you guys, I thought we'd have a look on the land about the foot change and the rig flip. What happens in the middle of your carve jibe, your power jibe, your step, your strap, whatever style of jibe you're doing, what happens with the foot change and the rig flip? First thing to say at the start of the video, and I've said it in many of these videos already, is foot first or rig first. They're both okay, as long as it's done deliberately. So if you change your feet first, if you step before flicking the rig, that's called a step jibe. If your foot is still in the strap when you flick the rig, that's called a strap jibe. Either one is fine. We'll dive into the differences a little bit, but I'm more looking at the mechanics of where we step, where on the board I want to be, and how I'm actually doing the rig flip. So let's jump on to the board. So we're looking specifically at what's going on under my feet right now. So two cameras are going to show you what's going on along the way. Now the first thing to realize is when we're going around the carve jibe, is the board is flat from front to back, it's going to remain fast. So that might mean that I need to be further forwards or further back on the board and on the balance. That's all okay. Midway through the jibe, to keep speed, I want to keep the board on the same trim from front to back and from side to side. So if I'm carving quite hard, then the foot change wants to keep that. That will maintain flat front to back, but the carve or the trim side to side remains the same. So if I am carving hard, the foot change will need to be hard onto the rail too. If my carve is a little bit softer, keeping the board flatter through the jibe, which I'll tend to do if I'm going for a bigger jibe or a more marginal condition jibe, then the foot change will be a little bit more central, keeping that board flatter from side to side. Hard carve, hard on that rail, a big foot change on the inside, a step forward. This time a softer carve, the board is flatter from side to side, and the foot change therefore would be a little bit more central. The summary there is whatever trim you have, I'm trying to maintain that same trim through the foot change towards the exit. Now generally what that means is that the foot coming out of the strap, the heel of that foot goes to the toe of the other foot. Heel to toe, and then step forward. Notice as I'm doing that heel to toe, the foot change is happening in front of the carving foot. The reason I say generally I'm going to have that foot change happen in front of the old carving foot is because most of the time we're learning how to plane out of the jibes, which means you've probably slowed down, so I'm trying to get the board flat again to accelerate out of the turn. However, the better you get at your jibes, and now this is moving on to a higher level of jibes depending on who's watching this, you might discover you're coming around a jibe with a lot of speed. If you try and make the foot change forwards of the carving foot and step forwards again, all of that speed and power will probably end up throwing you out the front door and making it very difficult to control. So there's two options of what you could do if you realize you're really powered up and actually need to depower as you come towards the exit. One option, still think along the lines of maintaining the same trim, is a heel to heel bump. Heel to heel bump, I mean, this carving foot needs to be replaced almost exactly where it is with my new back foot. Heel to heel bump to there, step forwards. Heel to heel bump, step forwards. Or possibly you're even more powered up and you're trying to depower and possibly slow down a little bit towards your exit. you might make the foot change behind the other foot and then step forwards. This would stop the trim being the same. It's more likely to deliberately sink the tail slightly, but if you're going really fast and actually you want to make sure you're controlled and not just ejecting out the front door, making that foot change further back might actually help you. Now in these examples we're looking at the step jibe because I've done the step first and now I'm coming towards the exit, effectively clue first. The sail is backwards, it hasn't yet rig flipped and I've just gone through straight downwind, roughly. So for every single rig flip in pretty much every manoeuvre that you go around the mast or around the front of the sail, before you flick the rig, your front hand has to slide forwards. I say before, it can happen at the instant that the sail is released, but this front hand has to go forwards or the sail won't depower and go light. From here, I can do whatever I want. It's nice and light and nice and easy. And really that's one of the big secrets to making this jibe and making the rig flip work nicely. The front hand slides to the front, the back hand releases, let the sail go down to the back before bringing the sail to this hand. Common mistake is that this hand actually goes back here. All of the weight goes on the tail. It's very heavy, it hurts my back. Ugh! Trying to heave it back up. You've lost your speed or possibly just toppled off the back of the board. So, that phrase again, as I release the sail and it goes towards the back, body comes forwards. Sail to hand here. Now, depending on whether you're trying to make a dry jibe or plane out of your jibe will depend on what happens next. Because if I catch the sail here and simply drop, I've got a dry jibe, I've survived, I've got a bit of power in the sail. But you've probably not got much power. So if you want to exit with speed, when you catch the new side of the sail, the new side of the boom, allow the boom to slide through your fingers, going back towards the harness line. So you probably catch the boom here. That slide gives you loads more power. And that's going to make a big difference if you're close to planing out and then you want the power to actually make it happen. Now, making this more of a dynamic flowing motion rather than just a hinged or pivoted door will make a big difference to, again, that dry jibe becoming a powerful planing exit. The big thing I guess I want to stress though is it doesn't need to be a rush. When you come through from that clue first position, allowing the sail to go back, body forwards, wait, then bring it back up again will make a big difference. And that's where maybe you've seen on this channel or elsewhere the disco jibe. Because midway through that exit, rig back, body forwards, look and lunge, or most importantly, that little disco move here, counterbalancing the power of the sail at the back. That's an important pause moment. It doesn't need to be a scramble and a rush. If you rush, even on the land in a light wind, it's heavy and it's cumbersome and awkward. Whereas when you let it go and let it float, suddenly everything gets a lot easier. So how do you practice this? When do you practice this? My top tips for learning to plane out of your Carve Gybe is go sailing in non-planing conditions. It doesn't need to be 20-something knots. You don't need to be blasting in the foot straps to get the hang of allowing the rig to float and really feel where that sail can go when it goes back and forwards. In fact, some of the best success I've had with advanced coaching and planing out of Carve Gybe sessions are hours of training and loads of different games and exercises in the light winds. One of the key ones for this one, I'm going to show you just now. Light wind, non-planing conditions, D-power. Switch hands. There's that disco, that little night fever position. Back on with the power. Again. Master that flow, that feeling in the light winds. Then when you're doing it at 20-something knots, so much easier to do, so much more instinctive and natural to do without scrambling and panicking and trying to get hold of something and it all going wrong midway through. That's it for now. All land-based for the main chat that I'm going through, but as you saw, there's a few extra clips that I've thrown along the way. So huge thanks to the guys on the beach and up in the air from filming those sessions, and links to all of those guys are down at the bottom of the description. Also in the description, you'll find links to me if you're coming out here to Vass and you fancy joining me for some coaching clinics, one-on-one sessions, or there's a number of group sessions going on throughout the summer. Everything's down in the description, including how you can get your hands on some of these cheeky little caps just here. Okay.